Hi, this is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle. Today we're going to work on a Penn 712Z. It's the reel that followed the Penn 712 Greenie. It's almost identical. I want to show you how to take this apart and service this reel. Now this reel came into me. I think it was Jerry who sent it in because he had a bad bail. He tried to reinstall it and it just wasn't working properly. Well, we've got the bail working. I probably should have done a video on that. I didn't. But I'll show you how to take this 712 apart, how to tune this thing up, how to get it back out there fishing again. I told Jerry as part of the bail service that I would go ahead and do the reel service as well. So let's open up, see what we got. And the first thing you do is you start by removing the side plate. You'll notice I have a glove on. That's to keep some of the oils and greases off my hands, and we can see that we have some old grease in there, so we'll give that a part of the cleaning and we'll make sure that that gets back the right way. The second thing I like to do when I do this is take the override for the anti-reverse dog and shut it to the non-functioning position. That's so when I take the gear out, I don't have to worry terribly about the dislodging that anti-reverse dog. I take pictures along the way. I have a camera running here with the video that's showing pictures. That gives me an idea of where the pieces and parts came off. And if I get stuck along the way, I will go back and I will reference that. And then finally, I use a parts tray. I use the bottom of a milk jug. But I keep all my parts in one place so that I can easily assess them when I go to take them and put them back on the reel. So what I'm doing now is I'm removing the crosswind arm. And we're going to do a thorough cleaning on this and a relube. There's a crosswind arm here. And then we want to take this screw off the bottom here so that we can remove the worm gear and shaft, or the spinal gear, or whatever we want to call that gear, pinion gear. Okay. That'll take that off, and then we can remove this whole top assembly. There we go. So it came out of here. And I like to take the screw and put it right back in the assembly so I don't lose it. Even though I have a parts tray, a lot of screws start to look the same after a while. And if you want to just make sure that you're purpose driven with that, you can. People ask me why I wear that glove. There's a good example of it right there, is that we have the grease would have been on my hands already. I work on a lot of reels over the course of the day, the week, the month, and after a while you just kind of learn that you keep that stuff off. You don't have to worry about things that might be in it and so on. Alright, there's a little collar here that crosswind arm runs on, so I'm going to take that off, do the same thing, get the old grease off of that. And now I should be able to push the main gear out. There we go, this is a little sticky, so we'll get that out of there. And now you can see if I had that in the on position, which would be this, then when you go to push it out, you would be caught there because it would be inside. And if you leave it in the off position, you're in good stead there. Okay, so we want to clean the main gear up. This is basically an exercise in cleaning. This is a beautiful fishing reel. Had a little bit of a bail problem. I'm not sure what caused the bail problem, but we got that working again. Now we're just going to clean this up, and it's a general tune-up here. So I'm going to check the teeth of the main gear, make sure that they're all together in uniform. They are. And I'm just going to set that aside. We'll come back and grease that in just a moment. Now we have the top plate assembly here. I'm not quite sure what it's bigger than what I thought it was. Probably a 13mm wrench. Let's try that. It's 13mm, but we're going to need a deep socket, so I'm going to turn this off for a moment, go get my deep socket. So most of the time I have my tools nearby. In this case I didn't, so I went and got it. And you don't need a deep socket that much. You just need a socket that's going to clear the rim, but I happen to have a set of deep sockets, so I'll go ahead. Alright, you load it up. It's a 13 millimeter. You should have it, there you go, where it just breaks it. And it's a traditional threaded one where if you turn it counterclockwise, it will remove the nut, and we can remove the rotor. I'll put the nut right in the rotor. I'm going to leave that here rather than on the case. I'm going to go ahead and remove the collar here. Now this is an older reel, so if you find that there's any tension or you're having trouble pulling these screws out, then by all means soak it with some penetrating oil. That's why I have this WD-40 sitting over here on my bench, just in case it's needed. But over time, these can get a lot of salt or a lot of dirt and other things clogging the channels and making it difficult to turn. And the last thing you want to do is break one of these screws off trying to remove it. So if you find yourself in that situation, take a coffee break and get that out. And once you take that collar off, then you can give this bearing a good drink of oil. You want to make sure everything's running fine in here, and it is. So I'm going to use Real X. We're going to oil that bearing up there. I'm going to do that from above and below. You can do it both ways. I'm going to put that little collar back on. Just because the fewer parts you have laying around, the better it's going to be. Okay, once you've oiled up that bearing, then you want to tie down the collar, put it back on with those 3 screws. And I stopped the video there for a moment just because all of you know that I struggle with the small screws, and I figured you didn't need to see me get these things all set up here. But there you go for that. And while we were at it, as I mentioned, no sense leaving the parts and that laying around on the bench. If and when you have the opportunity to put them back on the reel, go ahead and do just that. There's a little key that goes here. Pull that pinion gear up, and we can put our nut back on. Those spiral gear reels have really stood the test of time. They were designed well from the beginning. They were wonderfully engineered. In this case, this one I believe is stainless, and you can just see how nice and smooth that whole thing turns. Alright, we'll just do a little bit more cleanup of some old grease that's in the channel here. The reel overall is clean. I'm checking the spiral gear just to make sure it turns easy, which it does. And I'm also checking to make sure that those teeth are aligned right. And then I'm going to go use some fishing reel grease. I'm going to use Penn Precision reel grease to lubricate up that spiral gear. Now we'll come back and we'll get that main gear that we had. Now the main gear, you're going to put grease on a couple of places. You can put the teeth, and you don't need it in every slot. Just a couple here and there. As it works around, it'll do okay there. And then you want to get some grease onto the face of this, because that crosswind arm is going to travel on that, so you want to make that smooth. And then you want to get grease onto the core shaft, which is going to go through that bushing there. So once we do that, we can insert back into the bushings. And I just left this this spot where that little cap is going to ride. I left that open because we're going to want to make sure that when we go to put that nut in there, that we're not compromising that positioning at all. All right, I'm going to just put that washer on in the handle, just to kind of hold that all in place. And actually, we'll see it working without the crosswind right now. It's working nice and smooth. That's a nice reel now that we've oiled the bearings and the like. We'll take the axle shaft next. You want to feel that. If it's dirty, you certainly want to clean it. You can clean it with some steel wool and the like. Let's get that in here then. And then we want the bottom of the crosswind arm. So we're going to set this up. We're going to take that screw out so that we know that where we are with that. We're going to install the axle shaft through the hole in the rotor. I come down and align the hole in the crosswind block. That just takes a moment. I have a pin that I use quite a bit just to make sure that we're all lined up. There we go. And actually now's a good time to put the top end of this on while it can still swing. If you put that screw in now, you have to do a little bit of a dance. Okay, we're going to put that little collar behind it. Grab the crosswind arm, bring it up, grab that pin again so that we can align that hole. We can grab the tie down. Now this tie down's got a shoulder on it, so you got to make sure that as you reinstall it, that the shoulder is riding properly on that inside of that little collar. This one's best done by hand for the most part. I'm just struggling a little bit here with getting the hole aligned. Keeps wanting to slide on the grease, but I think we got it that time. Then you have to push the collar until you get this thing centered. There we go. Now we're centered. You can tighten this down. And now we can go grab that same pin, make sure that we have the hole centered for the tie down screw on the axle shaft. Tighten that down. Make sure that we're tight again up top. Close this reel up. Actually, you can take a look at how it's running right now. We can re-engage the anti-reverse dog override to make sure that that's working properly. Close it back up, and that's the bottom end service. So we'll just go up top. We'll show you the drags on this one and how to service the drag washers here. But the 712 is a nice reel. It's held its value over time, and a reel in nice condition like this that's working properly, it probably would fetch top dollar because the paint and everything is good on it. And it's working nicely. Here's your top end assembly then. It has a C-clip ring that's holding this in. A pin comes in handy, as I've mentioned before. I'm going to stick that in one of these little cavities. I'm going to just put that right there for a moment. We're going to pull the gears, the washers out. And it looks like these were recently changed. Here's your HT100, a rectagonal one. And we have the second of the HT100s. Now you could choose to put the Cal's Universal Dry Grease on these, or you can leave them dry. It's at your option. They're in there dry now, so we're going to leave them that way. Second of the hexagon goes in the middle. Top one for the washer. Flip this. And just reinstall the clip. Hold it, it's a spring clip, it can't shoot, and you need to make sure that you get it in the groove in the spool so that it acts the job of the retainer. Okay, so we're in with that. We'll tie this down. You want to get it properly aligned. So good reel overall. And Jerry, this one's going to be on its way back to you, so you can go take it fishing. I'll tighten this down, make sure that we have that drag working properly. There you go, we're all tight. Working nice and smoothly. Got a bail that functions. This one's ready to go fishing again. So I hope you've enjoyed it. If you did, please like it and subscribe if you want to see more. That's the best way to do it. If you have any comments, leave the comments and I'll try and answer them for you. If you're a first responder, thank you for everything it is that you've been doing during this pandemic. We really do appreciate your efforts and everything you've done to keep us safe. If you're not a first responder, if you're part of the general population like most of us, please stay safe, wear your masks, listen to your governors. Take the time to take care of yourself. We will get through this together. So I hope you've enjoyed it. This is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle. Thank you for watching.